Hello, this is Bernard Mathis. You're watching Mathis Financial Services. Planning today's uh, conversation is about planning for special needs children. Um, Normally, with a person who has a special needs child, they have to go through a few more things in order to take care of that child if something were to happen to them. Um, so, question of number one would be question of the day is if something were to happen to you, um, who would take care of your child? Who would be next in line to take care of your child? If you're married, it would be either your husband or your wife, or maybe your children, depending on their ages. But who do you have in line? Who knows that they're in line to take care of that special needs child? That becomes question of the or one of the questions of the day. Um, Number two, in this selection of the person who's going to replace you, that person is going to become the child's guardian. The question becomes again, is that person willing to take on that responsibility um, of being that special needs person's guardian? Uh, do you have paperwork that says that you want Johnny Jones or whoever to be that person's guardian? Have you talked to that person about being that person's guardian? That becomes an issue as time goes on. Um, Out in and I have to kind of back up a little bit um, because what if this person is a young person is one thing, and then what if that person is over the age of 18? That's a whole different position. Because if the person is over, let's say that you wanted to buy a life insurance on the person who's over the age of 18. Well, the potentials are pretty good that you may not be able to get life insurance on that person because they are now majority age. And if they're majority age, they have to sign the contract. And they also have to understand the contract that they're getting. So a lot of companies will not insure that person because the person technically may be incompetent, and also the liability there again lies with the insurance company. Um, a story of fact is I have a special needs child, um, but I also had a person who wanted to be a client, um, had a special needs child that was who was majority age, over the age of 18, and couldn't buy life insurance on that person strictly because of the reasons I just talked about. Uh, Person had the age, money was not an issue, but because the person did not understand and had to sign the paperwork, the agent could not take care of that person. Also, from the standpoint that sometimes parents don't have guardianship over their children, and not having guardianship over the child, not having been given guardianship through the court system over that person, then that person uh, you're going to have a whole lot of other issues down the line when that person becomes majority age. Let's say that person qualifies for Social Security, or and they pretty much will potentially do that because they're majority age, disabled. Then who's going to be the guardian ad litem for that person? Have you had that conversation in your family as to who, as I say again, some happens to you, some happens to uh, mom and dad, and also if you have other children that are under the age of 18, potentially those kids, they're orphaned by the family, but even bigger because the whole family could be split up based on not having paperwork in line to take care of that issues. If a friend or family has included a child in a will, that child now, because let's say grandma passed away and leave that special needs child some money. Well, there again, depending on the money and how it's handled, that child could very well, if they were receiving a subsidy from the government, could very well lose that governmental subsidy, because technically they can't have more than $2,000 in their bank account at any particular point in time. So those are things that I'm just kind of talking about. Have you talked to an attorney? Other advisors who specialize in planning families with dependent children. Do you have a special needs trust? So, which means that when something happens to you, this child, because you didn't have paperwork in order, now owns a portion of a home, owns a portion of a bank account, all kinds of things like that, which also again puts that child in a position, if they're receiving benefits from the government, then those benefits could be cut off. And that's what I'm saying. What happens if there's a divorce, which is something that could happen? Who gets the child? Does the husband get the child? Does the wife get the child? It's a whole lot of underlying situations that like I said, a lot of times people aren't talking about. And so today I'm kind of giving you a handle that, hey, you may need to sit down and have this conversation. It's a tough conversation to have. What if the main caregiver were to get ill and can't take care of the child? What kind of directives are there for that? And the reason I say this is because I've had some friends who had a child from birth, a grandchild, in fact, because of their ages, they passed away. All of a sudden now this child who had never really left home for more than a few days is now thrust into a position whereby the person who normally took care of the child are no longer there, and they have to go now into a whole new setting. And unfortunately, in the course of a year, maybe a year and a half, the child passed away because he was still grieving from the grandparents leaving. He was distraught, and because he didn't understand what happened to him. As I say, other cases I've talked to persons about is whereby they couldn't get insurance because nobody would take the person, because the person was just not in a position where they could sign the paperwork. One person I talked to, their thing was that because of a divorce, their position was that the next oldest niece was going to be able to handle work with the child, because they had been together a long time and the husband hadn't been in the child's life. And so she was looking at nieces and nephews, some 5 and 6 years of age, who possibly may have to stand up and take charge of this situation because there was no paperwork. So today, I'm here saying you need to think about, if you have a friend or a family member who's in that position, they really need to sit down and have a conversation about what will happen to that child if something happened to them. And like myself, I said, I have a special needs child, and we've got paperwork in line, but we still come back and address that issue often to make sure that the people who are in the lineup, if you would, like a baseball team, the person who's in the lineup, persons in the lineup are still able, so we're constantly still looking over our persons and also looking out into our future persons who may have to stand in the gap. Thank you. Have a great day. Don't forget, Mathis Financial Services, Bernard Mathis, 334-467-1108. Mathis 7864 at AOL.com if you have a question. Be glad to work with you. Thank you.